Hello, welcome to another episode of Forgotten Cemeteries of the Pacific Northwest. Today we're visiting Pleasant View Cemetery West, located in Hoodview, Oregon, Clackamas County. Alternative names of the cemetery include Hoodview and Pleasant Hill. So let's go meet some local residents and hear their story. Before we jump into the history, I just want to say thanks for watching. We're up to 400 subscribers, so just never expected that. Hope you enjoy my boring content. Anyways, a little history about this cemetery. It was established in 1865 with 500 to 2,000 burials. It's a big one. Find the Grave shows 1,700 memorials. Rumor has it is that they changed the name to avoid confusion with Pleasant Hill Cemetery, which we visited before in Sherwood, Polk County. Now that was a good one. A little confusing, but apparently there's a Pleasant View East Cemetery as well, but it's called Logan Cemetery. Hopefully we'll get to visit that one day. Back to the west, the cemetery was donated May 15th, 1886 by Moses Matthew Baker. Absolutely zero information on Hoodview, Oregon, assuming it's a reference to a view of Mount Hood Mountain. Pulling up Google Earth, appears to be a very bunch of wealthy people that live around here who own their own private pools and tennis courts. Google Earth was fun to navigate, so that's cool, I guess. This cemetery is massive. I think it may turn into a two-parter because if I did what I wanted, I'd be here for like 5 hours, and GoPro batteries kind of suck. Today we'll meet individuals with some deep American history roots, talking like old Virginia. We'll hear the story about how black and white servants came together to rebel against a colonial governor. Hear the story of a brave woman who volunteered herself to be hanged in exchange for her husband's release from prison. True love. Hear the story of a family that got ditched for a wedding. Discover the grave marker of a Civil War Confederate doctor. That's a first for us. Stop by the headstone of a popular pioneer Nebraskan. Meet the founder of Wilsonville, Oregon. And finally, we have another first of this cemetery. Let's hear the story of a war regiment who fought in a Mexican-American bloody battle. However, their opponent was not human. And our first stop is of Maria Everest Parrott's headstone. She was born in England in 1810. The Parrott family would leave England boarding a ship called the Josephine in 1852, and I read there was around 11 family members aboard that ship. Sailed around South America and finally arrived in 1853 to Oregon. I guess there was dense fog and they couldn't dock into Astoria for like 2 weeks. They had relatives waiting for them. However, when Maria arrived, her family was nowhere to be found as they were at a wedding, so they kind of got ditched. There is a Parrott Mountain, Oregon as well here, so that's kind of neat. A lot of family history there. And here is Detlef Sass, interesting name. Guessing it may be German because in 1857 came to Nebraska and apparently founded the town of Grand Island. That pick in the vid is from 1867, by the way. I'm unsure if he was the main guy who named it, but 35 German settlers moved to the area in 1857, so maybe it was like a group naming type of deal. And Grand Island was home to the first sugar beet processing factory. I know you're on the edge of your seat with that one. However, Detlef was so popular back in Nebraska, he even got his own memorial back there. Had a hotel back then and was mainly a farmer from what I read. Also was in a band. Very late to Oregon, around 1892-93 I believe, but died shortly after arriving here in 1894. But a big piece of Nebraska pioneer history. Hopefully you can see it. There's a bush in the way and it's unlevel terrain to film the headstone of Charles Wilson. Shockingly, we have another founder of a city. Charles Wilson, says on his headstone, was the owner and founder of Wilsonville, Oregon. He was the first postmaster for the town, so it was fitting. However, I did read that Daniel Boone's grandson, Alfonso Boone, settled early on in what we would call Wilsonville. Well, by far, the most interesting story in this entire cemetery belongs to Sylvanus Calkins. Family history goes way back before the Revolutionary War in America. Sylvanus is a Mexican-American war vet, which was the invasion of Mexico by the U.S. in 1846. Pre-1846, President Polk wanted to expand the United States to Oregon and California, with Texas being part of this ordeal. One thing unique about Sylvanus' story was he served in the Mormon Battalion, listed as the only religious unit in United States military history. Apparently the flag you're seeing in the video was the battalion's flag, but most say it's not. That was a little confusing. They only fought in one battle though, Battle of the Bulls, which took place in Arizona. However, it wasn't against humans, it was against wild cattle. In December of 1846, the Mormon Battalion was marching to San Diego and camped at one point, catching the attention and curiosity of wild bulls to the point the bulls caused damage to wagons and mules, injuring 3 men. The bulls continued to charge like over and over, plus gored mules. It was pretty bloody, I guess, and gross. Chaos erupted in the camp. There's several stories of this event, but from what I generally read, the battalion eventually opened fired on the charging bulls, killing 15 to 80. It's a pretty big range there. I guess it was an epic hour-long battle, and the only time the Mormon crew got to use their firearms. Believe it or not, there's a historical marker in the middle of nowhere if you ever pass through the ghost town of Charleston, Arizona. And just a quick stop, thought I'd stop by the headstone of Moses Matthew Baker. He's the reason we can visit this cemetery today. It says on his headstone, donated the land for the cemetery in 1886. Somewhere out there is the final resting place of Justin Chenoweth, who has no marker from my understanding. However, has quite a list of successes in Oregon. His grandfather served in the Revolutionary War, more specifically Rawlins Regiment, a specialized group of riflemen from Maryland and Virginia. Oddly enough, Justin's grandfather and father burial details are unknown, just like him. Apparently he's here somewhere, but runs in the family, I guess. Back to Justin, he is a pioneer of 1849, educated as a surgeon as well, so that's a rare find for us, kind of neat. Was a member of the Civilian American Rifle Regiment, so like his grandfather, must have been a pretty good shot. Taught school here, right here in the valley, but appears to be big into surveying land for the early pioneers. Played a huge part in that. So popular indeed, there's a town in Wasco County named after him, Chenoweth. He did have 4 children, but 2 of them met an early end, sadly. His one son, John, fell 25 feet while trimming a tree and was paralyzed, later dying in the hospital. His other son, Justin Jr., built a 65-foot sailboat for himself and his partner, where they would go to Alaska and do sailing. I'm not sure if they were getting into some type of business. The article does mention he only had a 25% interest in it, so that was an odd statement. Sailed for 5 years, but did not care for it and wasn't successful. He finally leases the boat and sails back as a passenger from Unalaska, Alaska. Justin and the boat would never be seen again and deemed lost at sea. One of the more interesting stories here is the headstone of Willa Viley Yates. Interesting name, and this is a first for us. Willa served in the 3rd Regiment of the Confederacy Missouri Army. However, he served as a doctor for the Confederates. The 3rd saw action in quite a bit of battles, such as the Battle of Corinth, Port Gibson, Champion Hill, and the Battle of Grand Gulf. Yates is also listed on Find a Grave as a Virginia First Family. You could see on his headstone as well. I didn't know what it meant, so I looked it up, and it read it basically means the families in colonial Virginia who were socially prominent and wealthy, but not necessarily the earliest settlers. So a pretty cool story, and you can see MD for medical doctor on his headstone. Well, it took forever, but I finally found the headstone of Sobrina Clay Russell. Very interesting historical link here. Her family history has some pretty deep roots into the creation of America, mentioned in a famous book called Adventures of Person, which describes the founding families of Virginia. The Clays appeared to be mentioned in the book, and one of Sobrina's ancestors is a Dr. Charles Clay, born in Charles City, Virginia in 1638. Whoa. In 1676, he joins Bacon's rebellion, led by Nathaniel Bacon, who went up against the royal governor and Indians in the area. Apparently, this was a small army of all classes and races that came together to rebel against William Berkeley, colonial governor. Bacon's rebellion was the first uprising of frontiersmen in the North American colonies. The alliance was apparently white servants and black slaves or laborers. However, the rebellion was quickly defeated, and an article I read mentioned they separated the races to further divide whites and blacks from a potential future uprising. Berkeley would go on post-rebellion to execute rebels for months. Part of those deaths was an Lydia Cheesman, who was in support of Bacon but charged with treason and jailed. Edmund's wife, Lydia Cheesman, begged Berkeley to release her husband, to the point she states that she would like to be hanged in exchange for his freedom. So, true love. Berkeley was so impressed with her bravery, he decides to release her husband, but sadly Edmund dies in prison before then. Believe it or not, Sobrina's ancestry continues with a John Clay, born in 1587 in Monmouth, Wales. He landed in Jamestown in February of 1613. Captain John Clay was referred to as a British Grenadier, hired soldier to the King's Army, sent by ship called the Treasurer. They were supposed to protect the settlers in Jamestown. I guess that was their main duty. James Clay's occupation is listed as an ancient planter, a term applied to early colonialists who migrated to the colony of Virginia. There's also a note that he was apparently knighted by Queen Elizabeth I. So a pretty simple headstone out in the middle of Oregon, but as you can see, a very deep history. Alrighty, time for the tour. They got just about everything you need here. It seems very community based and well taken care of. A little update thing here. Unusual vandalism. We had an odd case of a vandalism that involved the disturbance of an unmarked 1969 grave and a collision with 2 upright granite stones by a vehicle leaving the scene. That's a little odd. Nice map there too. Bathroom. They claim that it's under surveillance, but I don't know. I think we've seen that before, but I think it's more just a deterrent. But this was a very fun cemetery. I could totally see myself coming back here. You could feel the history when you walk around. This is one of the rare ones that I came through, and it's like, oh man, wish I would have researched that person. I wish I would have looked at that person. And definitely could be a two-parter, similar to Hill Cemetery in Gaston. What's this bird doing? He's totally not afraid of anything. Yeah, quiet one. I think I've seen one person so far walk by. They're kind of looking at me like, what a weirdo, but whatever. Try not to film headstones too much because there's a lot of new ones and people get sensitive about that, so that's cool. I don't want to offend anyone, so we'll try to work our way towards more of the older pioneers because that's more our style anyways. Filming this after Memorial Day, so hence all the American flags. Plethora here. Spanish-American War. Oh, that's really cool. Philippine Islands, wow. The map did help up there. If you're looking for someone specific, just go to that map. Don't even try it. There's so many headstones here that it's a bit overwhelming at first. Because we usually go to the smaller ones where it's pretty simple. What the heck is all this? 32, triangle, triangle with an eye. A star with a sword above it. Some odd symbolism there. Maybe some of you know what's going on. Can't say I've ever seen that. Pretty well taken care of, as you can see. It's awesome. Very odd names too. We'll see them. I could not pronounce them, but we've seen a lot of pioneer last names, but a lot of them are new here. See, there's a Civil War vet I didn't look into, 36 Wisconsin. Kaiser. Let's cross this one. This one was pretty fancy. Wisconsin Civil War vet. There is a lot of Indian war vets from the 1800s. I can't remember the exact year, but you'll see a few of those little markers as well. Some old school one. You can tell it's been here quite a while. Look at all the weathering on it. I feel like they were just cleaned. There's a super bright, it's almost blinding. A lot of symbolism at this one, if you're into that. Seems over here I see some type of marker. Oh, another Civil War one. Fletcher, I think that says. Hear a bunch of bees by that bush. I better stay away from there. Wipe the headstone there. Some coordinates. That's really neat. Oh, cool motorcycle. Very cool monument there. That one really stuck out too. The black pillar with the white cross on top. That was unique. It's one of those Indian War veteran symbols that I saw. Sylvanus. Talked about him. Another Indian War veteran marker. There was something in the center I wanted to show you all. Oh, that one's a bit more prominent on the actual headstone. There's a memorial in the center of the cemetery with American flagpole. I think it has all the wars listed for individuals buried here. We'll work our way over there really quick. That guy right there. And they have a big listing with all the individuals going back to the Black Hawk War. So we're gonna have to find those individuals, tell their story hopefully if we do a part 2. But World War I, II, Korean War, Indian War, Spanish Wars, Civil War. And I'm sure the American flags are a big giveaway. There's a lot of veterans here. Bird houses around here too, and there is a lot of birds here. I don't think they're happy I'm walking around, squawking a lot. pretty. Smell this guy, but man, it was so wore down. Appears to be another Spanish-American War veteran. Wow. Take it those are Clydesdale. Together they built Quailhurst. I wonder what that is. Very unique one I came across was Frederick Boussay. Big scripture page. One of the more unique we've seen. Service to the Oregon Brass Works. Wow. Like I said, you come across all these cool little writings on headstones. I wish I could show them all to you, but I figured we'd just walk through. I definitely will come back a second time down the road. Or you can just visit yourself. That's a good idea, right? Turnbull. That's a cool last name. I had a special little plot here in the center I didn't go through or visit yet. Got their own little garden here. Enjoyed the stories. There's quite a bit of them. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Hope spring/summer is going good for you. If you have any other recommendations on cemeteries to visit in Oregon, feel free to comment below. Stay safe and thank you for watching. Have a good one.